Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for participating in our 8th annual and first ever virtual gala. We're so excited to have with us the Jackie Joyner-Kersee. Jackie, thank you so much for being with us. We are so honored to be in your presence.
Thank you. I'm so honored. It's like the heptathlon. You juggle it, trying to figure it out, but I'm glad that I'm on and to celebrate with you all as you uh, do what you need to do to raise funds and continue to make a difference in the lives of young people who want to do sports.
Absolutely. And that is one of Up to Us main objectives is that they always try and provide young people with coaches that not only help them on the field or on the court, but also help them in the field of life. And with that being said, I'd like to open up and ask you the importance of great coaches and how that helped develop champions.
For me, I came through a youth program and having really great coaches who not only cared about how fast I could run or jump or throw, but cared about me evolving and growing, from a young girl to a young woman and encouraging me and really those coaches saw the potential in me that I did not know that I had. And because of that, it was very encouraging that I would show up every day doing something that I love doing.
Well, Jackie, I'm going to tell you, if I'm going to interview somebody, I really like doing my homework. I absolutely enjoyed listening to your autobiography. And I'd like to ask you about Miss Dunham, one of the very first people that poured into you.
You know what? Growing up in East St. Louis and Catherine Dunham, being from our community and being able to go to the dance studio and just learn about your body movement. And that's where I learned how to visualize how my body should respond. And so it was really, sometimes you don't know when you're around greatness, and you have a tendency of taking it for granted, because we're young. It's like, oh, okay, but wow, to know that we were amongst a legend, and that was from our community of East St. Louis.
And that was one of your idols that you looked up to. Another wonderful thing about your youth is you tell the stories of all the different people that poured into you and nurtured you to allow you to blossom into this wonderful champion, 5-time champion to be exact. Everybody look at the end of your story, but it's nothing like listening to the foundation of your story and how your dad always teased you about your long legs, but Ms. Dunham made you understand that those long legs are beautiful. And just if you could tell us a little bit about your story and when you first dreamt of being a champion at that level.
I got started through a community center, and the executive director introduced me to track and field. And one of my coaches, Coach Fenoy, who work with all the young girls, and it was both girls and boys. But the other coaches who was coaching the boys decided that they didn't want to work with girls anymore. So we just thought that they were just going to do away with the program. And it was Coach Fenoy who said that there is a place for girls in this sport. And so for me, it was about setting goals. And I started off my first race. I finished last, but it wasn't where I finished. It was the passion that I had for running, showing up every day. I don't care if it was 100 degrees. I'm the first one there and the last one to leave. I just loved it. And it wasn't until I was 14 when I saw the 76 Olympic Games on television. And I saw a young lady, Evelyn Ashford, who would wear her hair in cornrows. And I was like, wow, maybe one day, I can go to the Olympics and I could be on television. And so I went to my coaches and they said I had the potential, but I had to be willing to work hard every day. And from that point on, I just said that, maybe one day, I could, go to the Olympics, and I set my sights on.
And when you talk about working hard, I think a beautiful part of your story is that how your parents had to work hard. Before, your mom was a stay-at-home mom, but then when some things fell through and your dad lost a job, and the way they sat and talked to you guys and say, it's not that I'm leaving you, it's that I need to take on a different role. I'm not going to be here to make your breakfast like I do and nurture you, but we need to, that's just discipline and commitment. You saw it in action every day. And even with that, I look at your commitment with your foundation. And I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your foundation and why it's important to you.
Yes, my mom and dad, they were teenagers when they had my brother Al first. They were 14 and 16. And and we lived in my great grandmother home. And but it was a lot of love, nurturing and setting goals and not really thinking about what we don't have, embracing what we had, and always be committed to working hard. And even when people would say you couldn't do something, you always try to find a way to get it done. And to me, that inspiration was symbolic in my family. But then going to the community center where I would work with different people, and it was no one could outwork me. Even when the workers would come, I would be the first one there. The director made me his assistant in a way, because I would set the ping pong paddles out, have the balls out, so when everybody would come and play, I was there. And that's where I found my love, learning about the big word at that time, volunteering, and the difference that it made, in my life. And through that, going to that center, I went to the library, worked with the librarian, learned how to check out books, part of the Meals on Wheels program, worked with the seniors who became a part of, I became a part of their, like my extended family. I learned how to do my Roman numerals, and then I fell in love with running, jumping, throwing, playing basketball, volleyball, and and then it wasn't until as I evolved and went off to college and unexpectedly losing my mom, coming back home and wanted to go somewhere, and went to that center, and that center the doors were locked, and I just started thinking, well, it had padlocks on the door, and I just started thinking, where do the young people go? How can I help? How can I uh, reopen that center? But that wasn't meant to be at that time. And I said I didn't need a building to help people. So I would, pour my sponsorship dollars into the different programs I was involved with. And eventually, from my freshman year from 81, I made my first Olympic team in 84, made my second team in 88, took my sponsorship dollars, poured it into different programs, chartered a plane. I was all part of the Macy Day Parade, took 110 kids and chaperones to the Macy Day Parade, wanted young people to see outside of our area where we were going, see New York City. And then some 8 years later, broke ground on the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Center, opened in 2000, and we use sports as a hook. But one of our main goals is to make sure that every kid can read at grade level, and we do the JJK with Winning in Life curriculum, 14 principles based around social and emotional responsibility. We do door to door transportation. We pick our students up from school, bring them to the JJK. Once they come in, they get a meal, and then they go into the enrichment, and then they do all the different the programs. And so uh, last year we celebrated being open for 20 years, and just so
Wow.
blessed to be in a position, and and now we're expanding. We have STEM and the arts, agriculture. We have a partnership with our park district where we have a greenhouse, and our students are planting seeds and nurturing them and seeing and understanding where food come from. Not just out
Outstanding.
the cabinet or out the store. So yes, and I just think that, but I couldn't do this alone. I'm very grateful to an organization like Adidas who see beyond Jackie Joyner-Kersee, the athlete, but truly invested and have a vested interest in the work that I'm doing in the community. And to me, that speaks volume, because early on in my career, I was with Adidas, and still today, I'm still with Adidas.
Absolutely, that's outstanding. The impact of your husband, but previous your coach, and just I grew up watching you. Let me be clear. I grew up watching you. We're the same age, but when it came down to track and field in the Olympics, I'm watching you, and just watching the relationship and the shift going from coach to husband, you know, when the injury occurred
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and when there was no injury, when the push and the challenge was needed. Talk about that different dichotomy of that relationship. I mean, you both knew your place and you both thrived together.
You know what? I think it was very important for me to always remain coachable and respect Bobby as my coach as much as I love him dearly as my husband.